support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. And all my people in Texas, y'all stay warm, please. Pray for the folks there. Millions in Texas still without heat. Republicans there, y'all trash ass. I said it. Governor Greg Abbott, you're full of shit. So is you, Dan Patrick, Lieutenant Governor. Y'all criticized the Democrats in California when they had the energy blackouts. Look what the hell's happening in Texas. And yeah, all my family is still there. So I got a problem with y'all doing what the hell y'all doing there. So get it together. And this is what happens when you also don't want to be a part of the federal energy grid. Y'all want to sit here and have your own because you don't want to abide by federal regulations. Now the whole grid is screwed up. People don't have water. Folks don't have heat. We got people sitting there being impacted all across. And then we're seeing again the haves and the have-nots. And Ken Paxton, your sorry-ass Attorney General of Texas, who blocked me on Twitter, who's under investigation for corruption. Why don't you do your damn job and go after these hotels who are gouging? You got two-star hotels in Texas charging $770, $900 to rent a hotel room for one damn night. The state should be prosecuting every single one of these price gougers. And so all you Republicans in Texas, I'm holding y'all accountable. Y'all talk all that trash about Democrat-run cities. Well, guess what? It's a red damn state, so do your damn job. That's all I'm saying. So somebody had to say it, and I'm sick and tired of y'all folk doing what y'all doing. You're screwing over the people there, talking all that trash. Live, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible.
Dr. Aisha Khoury, who was a member of the founding faculty at Kaiser Permanente School of Medicine, was suspended and then later fired from her job. She was asked to lead a conversation at the school in the wake of the death of George Floyd and, of course, the shooting in Wisconsin of Jacob Blake. Now, she said the conversation was authentic, emotional, and students were engaged, but she was suspended after someone complained about, quote, certain classroom activities that took place. She joins us right now. Dr. Khoury, glad to have you on the show.
Thank you very much for having me. It's wonderful to be here.
I'm trying to understand this. So they asked you to lead a conversation in the wake of these incidents, and you're the one who ends up getting suspended and fired?
That's how things roll at PWIs, right?
So what happened?
So classes started in July. You know, this is in the midst of the protests. We had just had Jacob Blake being shot. We had the Kenosha, Washington shootings. We had our own Anthony McLean here in Pasadena, blocks away from the school, being shot and killed by police. And students wanted to have a conversation about that. That week, we were also, from a medical school perspective, talking about bias and racism in medicine, talking about how Black people are undertreated when they're in emergency departments, talking about maternal death rates. We saw that with Serena Williams. And as the only Black American moderator, who was a physician in my classroom, I had a very candid conversation about not only my experiences as a physician, but my experiences individually. And the conversation was very engaged by the students. And 9 hours later, I received a call saying that I was suspended.
Surely your reaction had to be, y'all got to be playing a prank on me. I'm being suspended for leading the conversation that you asked me to lead. Well, I mean, what the hell did they think the conversation was going to be about?
I wish I understood that better. It's a conversation I would definitely have again, and I think it's a conversation that the younger generation of trainees and students that we have coming up are ready for, and they're excited about. My students gave me incredible feedback about that session almost immediately. It's through one of my students that endorsed that my email had been suspended. He found me on LinkedIn to say that, hey, Dr. Khoury, I'm trying to reach out. I hope it's okay to reach out to you here. It was just shocking, and I was just numb for about 3 days.
So you get suspended. How long were you suspended before it all of a sudden leads to termination?
Ultimately, the decision was made not to renew my appointment, and so my appointment ended January 31st. But I went from having a promotion expected in an email to me from my chair June 10th, and then I get suspended from the class in August 28th. I don't work at the school for several months, and then suddenly I get a letter of non-renewal, and in that saying that, you know, I have poor work product and I have poor judgment and, you know, all of the things that they do to kind of denigrate your character and disparage you.
What has been the well, first of all, did they ever fully explain to you why it wasn't being renewed? Did they actually say a student complained, a faculty member complained, a parent complained? They give any actual reason?
I never got a reason. I never got any understanding of the complaint from the class. I don't know who it came from. My students came out publicly for me on Twitter and sent several letters on my behalf to the leadership, saying that they wanted me to be reinstated. The 8 students of my class say that they are not the ones who complained. I did have a co-facilitator in the class. At the end of the day, though, I don't know who complained. And also I hold leadership accountable. If we're going to have these conversations in medical schools, and these conversations are necessary, evidenced by all of the conversation you all have had on the show today, then schools have to understand that if someone is uncomfortable, it's the school's responsibility to walk them through that. You cannot ask Black folk to do this work and then retaliate against them.
I also saw on social media that there were some students, some Black students, who turned down acceptances into this medical school as a result of what happened to you.
Not only did some medical students withdraw their applications, students who had already been accepted, and mind you, that comes with $200,000 of free tuition, withdrew their acceptances from the institution.
Wow.
It's incredible. It's really incredible. But I think what we're seeing is that psychological safety is important, and students of color, especially Black students, deserve to feel psychologically safe in school. And if
questions I want to pull in my panel here. Dr. Greg Carr, I'll start with you. Faculty member to faculty. Your question for Dr. Khoury.
Yeah, I'm sitting here, Dr. Khoury, shocked, sis. Let me just ask you. I mean, I have so many questions, but I suppose I'll try to keep it. Is there no faculty handbook, or I mean, it seems like this is a new faculty that's being established. So I mean, who's the accrediting body for them? And you know, I'm reading the suspension, as I'm sure you are, as a setup for further action that they took. So in that respect, is there not a process that they are beholden to at the risk of jeopardizing their accreditation?
So that's really interesting, because I did follow up with that accrediting body, and there is a handbook. The handbook is available online for anyone to read. The handbook was not followed in my case.
Okay.
Plain and simple.
Good. So in other words, stay tuned maybe for the lawsuit. I hope. Thank you, Roland.
Is that a plan for you, Doc, to sue?
You know what I'm learning, Roland, is that justice is very difficult and very expensive to find. So at this point, I can't say. I can't say.
Reese, your question for Dr. Khoury.
Dr. Khoury, yeah, I shared your story a couple months ago, I believe, on Twitter. So I'm happy to see you on Roland, raising awareness about this. What really struck me is, like you said, this is what they always do. They turn something that is supposed to be about, educating and enlightening people into a personal and professional attack against you. It's not just a matter of retaliating against you for the classroom session that happened, but actually trying to impugn your character and your professional ability. Have you found that that has been an issue in pursuing other opportunities, or has your speaking out been a hindrance in further opportunities? How does that retaliation and that write-up that they gave you, how does that impact your future prospects?
Yes, so I think for sure, I'm definitely getting mixed messages. I am getting some folks who feel like it's a bit too hot to touch, right, in terms of my joining other institutions. But my hope is that people will get to know my character because they get to see who I am through opportunities like this, through Twitter, and that I'll land at an institution that will appreciate my talents and skills and appreciate that I'm someone who will keep people accountable to health equity.
Erica Savage-Wilson, your question for Dr. Khoury.
Thank you, Roland. Yeah, Dr. Khoury, really appreciate being able to speak with you tonight. And thank you for being here. My question to you is, we were talking earlier about physicians, and there's only about the 5 to 7% of physicians, Black physicians, that are represented in your field. What has the support from your body of colleagues been like? And is that support enough to really raise more awareness? Reese talked about, she retweeted your story out earlier, and now you're here on the show. But what do you think that it will take in terms of galvanizing to get more people engaged in what's happened to you and what is yet happening to you?
Yes. I mean, definitely we have to move from being performative. You saw that in medical institutions all across the country, everyone kneeling for their 8 minutes and 46 seconds. But at the end of the day, we need people to put action to their performative activities. For sure, I got incredible support online from a medical community in general. But what I've seen now, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the story coming out of Tulane with Dr. Dinar, and there has just been an incredible movement of support of people who are intolerant of Black women being removed from their academic positions. That is going to require not only support of physicians all across the country, but also patients standing up with a hashtag, "We need Black doctors." This is an incredible moment in history. Black physicians have a lot to offer. And imagine if we are only 3 to 5% of physicians in general, we're even less in academic medicine. And if we're going to turn out the kind of doctors who we want to see treat us, Black physicians have to be at the table.
Right.
Dr. Khoury, we certainly appreciate it. Actually, before I let you go, have other medical schools reach out to you?
One.
Okay. One.
Wow.
We appreciate you telling us your story. Let us know how it goes in the future. Be glad to have you back on.
Will do. Thank you so much, Roland. Thank you so much, Cam.
All right. Thanks a bunch. All right,
folks. Back to that Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. And also, officers in Phoenix, Arizona, caught via their own body cameras discussing how they regret not committing any acts of police brutality on Black Lives Matter protesters during arrests in October. According to the Washington Post, 3 Arizona officers arrested 18 members of Black Lives Matter and stated that they were disappointed if they hadn't trampled the group and doused them in pepper spray. Arizona Police Chief Jerry Williams responded to the matter and called the officers' behavior disrespectful, adding their behavior threatened the police department's relationship with the community. It swore to protect and serve. She plans to take swift action in order to discipline the officers as she sees fit. At this time, the chief has not revealed what that discipline may look like. According to the Post, just hours after the body camera footage was released, the Maricopa County Attorney's Office announced that it would dismiss charges against 15 protesters who were arrested on October 17th. The protesters were facing a number of charges, including rioting, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, and resisting arrest. Chief Williams says the department will undergo reform in order to prevent another incident like this one from taking place. So, what do you make of all of that, Gary? You got the lawsuit in L.A. County. You got the cops sitting here spreading around the image of George Floyd and take my breath away. And then here in Arizona, but I think, don't they keep saying these are just a few bad apples? It's amazing how you just keep having bad apple after bad apple just roll on out.
You know, the part of the quote that we never finish is a few bad apples spoil the bunch, right? That the whole bunch is probably bad because we never deal with the bad apples that are in there. And passively going along with racism and bigotry is the same as being an overt racist or a bigot. What did Dr. King say? He said, it is not the loud ones that he was concerned about, but the silence of his friends, right? The people who say that they support justice and equity and progress, who sit there, receive a text message like that and don't say this is unacceptable. It's the people who know that discrimination is happening when you're trying to force somebody to sell their business and sit in a room and not say something. It's all of the people along the way that sit and do nothing that allow us to get to these inflection points that we end up discussing, because we won't deal with something when it is a small problem, or when it is something that could be checked in a way that just lets people know, you know what, this is unacceptable. I don't think it's funny. I don't think it's acceptable. And I'm not going to associate myself with you if that's how you believe. We don't believe in personal accountability, and therefore we don't have government accountability or workforce accountability or any of these things, because at the end of the day, it's people that run these organizations. And if people allow these things to passively exist, then they will continue to exist and perpetuate racism. The core of all of what you just talked about, Roland, is racism is alive and well in America.
Avis.
Absolutely. The reality is, you know, what other proof do we have to see? I mean, it's sad to say that this is not new. This is the type of racist behavior that we've seen out of these institutions forever. You know, what was the number of police officers, for example, that off-duty police officers that they believe participated in that insurrection? You know, how many times have we mentioned on this show about the fact that police organizations have been infiltrated by white supremacists? That's kind of clear. How many studies were done? I remember a couple of years ago about the Facebook activity of police officers across the country who were putting racist posts on their timelines, after which nothing substantially happened to most of these people who were engaged in these acts. The reality is that until these institutions start to take racism seriously and start eliminating these people, start firing these people, they are in essence condoning that behavior. And since they refuse to do it, the only logical assumption is they refuse to do anything about it because that's who they truly are.
Julianne.
You know, the interesting thing about the Phoenix case, Roland, is that the police chief is a woman, Jerry Williams. And these guys were, they want to go back to the good old days when they could F somebody up and there were no consequences. And they were going on and on about that. Their boss is a woman. In the good old days, you would not have had a woman police chief. So I'm wondering what she's thinking as she listens to this from her own employees. I'm wondering what she's thinking. But, you know, as Avis is right, the law enforcement has been out of control as long as there's been law enforcement. There have been people, especially Black people, but brown people. And in the South, they lynched a couple Jewish people. But there have been people who have been deemed unworthy of legal protection, more than unworthy of legal protection, basically worthy of contempt. So you see cases where, as an example, people are lynched because they had too much money. In one case, a brother was lynched. Then he was lynched because what had happened was he tried to sell his cotton and the man told him he had to take a lower price than a white man did. He used profanity. All he said was damn. But there was a law in the books in Arkansas that a Black person couldn't curse at a white person. So as soon as he left the store, they arrested him for cursing. Now the brother had it going on. He just went in his pocket and handed them the $15. That was bail. It was $15. A lot of money in 1919. He was at the sheriff's office. When he left the sheriff's office, they strung him up. And this is not an unusual story. This is a story of Black folks in America. And you're right, Gary, they always want to say, well, you know, one bad apple. But one bad apple spoils the bushel. And we know that there are bad apples. Some of them are above ground, but many of them are underground. The FBI did a study a couple of years ago that showed the connection between these white supremacists and law enforcement. They released the study, but of course this was during that man's administration. Nobody did anything. But that data that's in that particular report is very useful to talk about these connections. And we know back in the day, post-Reconstruction, Klan members were the sheriffs.
Bottom line here is this here. We have a fundamental problem in this country when it comes to police. As long as you have people who are living in gross denial, you're not going to see the changes. And anybody out there who continues to suggest that, oh, defund the police is bad, you do know where you have examples where shifting the resources has made a huge deal. And also, by the way, all the people out here who keep saying that, oh my goodness, because of how cops are being treated is leading to massive retirements like in New York. Good. That means that new jobs are being made available.
Oh, with your bad self.
Works for me. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Amy Cooper, the white woman who called the cops on a black man and falsely claimed he was threatening her in Central Park, had her case dismissed at a hearing in Manhattan criminal court. The prosecution asked the judge to dismiss one count of filing a false report against Cooper. The judge did that. The decision came after Cooper completed 5 sessions of an educational program that included instruction about racial biases. Cooper, of course, made headlines when that cell phone video went viral last year showing her harassing a black man named Christian Cooper, no relation, in Central Park. Come on, guys, roll the video, please. Christian asked the woman to leash her dog. She was unhappy with his request and falsely called the police, claiming he was threatening her. Cooper lost her job shortly after the incident went viral. All right, let's go to our panel on this. Bree, 5 classes.
Yeah. So, one of the key things in this case is obviously I recall how the jogger, he didn't seem like he wanted to push for much more. But this is another situation where I think the magnitude of what happened has really kind of been downplayed, right? This could have easily ended in him being killed. We have seen cases like this happen time and time again. And so while I, certainly respect the feelings of the person who was most directly impacted by it, she needs to face more penalty. We have to establish a precedent that really discourages people from engaging in this kind of behavior. I think at the very least, she should be paying some kind of fines, a restitution. She needs to be performing some other kind of community service. The idea that you just go through 5, sessions and that's enough. I mean, again, this is a case of whiteness, just the way that whiteness plays out. And her case, what we see on video is just such an obvious, blatant example of someone who is consciously lying, consciously trying to weaponize her whiteness against this black bird watcher. I called him a jogger. I'm sorry, black bird watcher. In Central Park. I mean, she was very knowingly doing what she was doing. And so to kind of just sweep this under the rug, oh, well, she's attended a few sessions and, let her go. Meanwhile, of course, we know we have Black people who are locked under the jail every single day, held without bail, dying in jail without even facing a trial. For things that they didn't even do, So again, this goes to the heart of just the racism in the criminal justice system from beginning to end, from the interaction with the police to the way that it plays out in the court system.
So Xavier, 5 classes, that good enough?
So she just read Rob D'Angelo's White Fragility, and that got her off. You saw the right-wing media go insane over Jussie Smollett, and they wanted him to spend years and years and years in jail of his life. And here's Amy Cooper, who weaponized her white privilege and attempted to basically put a man in harm's jeopardy. That was on camera. We didn't see Jussie's action in terms of what he did and all the different crazy machinations that he did on camera. But where are they? Where's the Fox News segments talking about what should happen to her? What about the DA there? And they went after Kim Foxx here in the state of Illinois, where I'm from, in Chicago, and went after her. They even had a whole political campaign against her that failed miserably. Where is that? It's obviously the clear is justice is black and white. Didn't know that you could just go read a book and get a book report and get off for putting a man's life in jeopardy.
And that really is the thing, because the bottom line is, Quadricos, when these things happen, when the cops get called, a lot of times we end up dead. And she was using her white privilege, and so, I get the further adjudication and those things, but, she went to 5 classes and her attorney said, she's learned and grown so much.
I agree with all the comments that have been echoed, but realistically, are we surprised here? I mean, if the insurrectionists, right, are allowed to go on holiday vacation or allowed special treatment in jail for certain meals, organic meals, then we can't possibly be surprised that the fact that this white woman gets to read a couple books and she gets off. I'm surprised she even had that, quite frankly. And I guess my frustration here is, at what point does this end? At what point do not necessarily holding them accountable, but at what point do we turn the tide to ensure that white people cannot weaponize their whiteness, that white women cannot weaponize their tears to continuously do harm to Black and brown people? I'm tired of these stories over and over again, and yet we see these people getting off scotch-free. At what point does it end?
I'll be honest with you. I think it's the same thing, Bree, when it comes to these cops. It ends when folk go to jail. It ends. See, here's the whole deal. I'm going to do to all of these white supremacist folks they always did to us. Lock them up, throw away the key. They don't teach them a lesson. I mean, bottom line is this here. If the answer is I can just take a class and get away with it, no. These folks need to see somebody like them punished for what they did. Put behind bars. It's the same thing like the whole scandal when it came to getting it, the college scandal. All right, these celebrities, oh no, y'all, it's no big deal. I mean, I know they bribe people, but they're celebrities, they're rich. They shouldn't go to jail. No. Send Felicity Huffman, send her ass to jail. Send that other child, I forgot the hell, the other white woman, send her to jail. All them CEOs who had to quit, send they punk asses to jail as well, because they need to feel the same thing they've been telling Black folks. That is, go there, then you sit there in prison to figure out what you did wrong.
The thing is, I just don't know how you make that happen because
more Black judges.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You're gonna have to change who's making the decisions, because that's really what it comes down to, right? Because so long as you still have these same folks in power making those decisions, they're always going to make sure that the treatment is unequal. But I agree. I mean, until people face consequences, there's no reason to behave differently. And so the outcome of this, what this teaches people basically is like, first of all, don't get caught on video, right? That's the number one thing, is just make sure you're not caught on cell phone video as they continue to make these false allegations against people and endanger people's lives. But even if you get caught, just cry the right amount of tears, and, all you have to do is go to some classes and say that you've changed, and they'll let you off. And meanwhile, Black and brown kids are going to continue to be killed on site in the street by police without getting any kind of hearing or anything at all. So again, it fundamentally comes down to, we have got to get the racists out of power. They are sitting on benches. This is one of the things that I'm constantly driving home as an organizer to folks, that people have to understand. Like, when we are talking about changing structures, there are individuals sitting in offices, sitting in positions, sitting in benches every single day who are making the choices. And that's why we're seeing the outcomes that we see. That's why we have to focus in on local elections. We've got to be really clear on who is, making these decisions, at a local level, at a state level, because that's the only way we're going to be able to change this.
Absolutely. That is the only way. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.
Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible.
Texas's faulty electrical power grid has returned to normal, according to the Electric Reliability Council.
who says the grid will now be able to provide power for hundreds of thousands of residents still reeling from the devastating snowstorm that pummeled the Lone Star State. Now, authorities have ordered nearly 7 million people to boil their tap water before drinking it to prevent the risk of consuming bacteria that may have seeped into the pipes. Gallons of water have been delivered in the state. President Biden has also issued for generators and diesel gas to also be brought into the state. FEMA is also stepping in, doing their part as well. Beto O'Rourke, who lost to Ted Cruz by a couple of points a couple of years ago, has been working the phones with his team. He's been tweeting that they've actually made more than 300,000 phone calls. Well, the last 24 hours, he's also been working with Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to raise money for folks in need. Well, she announced that they had raised more than $2 million, and she is actually headed to Texas to stay in with members there to distribute that money and resources to people as well. Let's go to of course, our panel right now. Rob Richardson, host Disruption Now podcast. Michael Imhotep, host of the African History Network. Kelly Bethea, communications strategist. I got to tell you, Rob, it must be something considering all of the crap Republicans have talked, whether it's Ted Cruz, whether it's Dan Patrick, Lieutenant Governor, and others about Ocasio-Cortez, whether you have Governor Greg Abbott yelling and screaming about the Green New Deal, which actually has not even been approved. Yet here you have Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, who they deride for being a socialist, who's actually done more to help the citizens of Texas than Texas Senator Rafael Cruz.
Yeah, I mean that's quite amazing, right? And you have folks that are just tied to this narrative that she's evil, AOC is evil, she's about socialism, so we can't trust her. And I'm afraid some people are just going to believe that narrative. Like when you go on if you go on Fox News, they will tell you a narrative, whatever you want to believe. You know, there is more nuance within a Disney movie than there is on Fox News. Fox News will make up a character and they'll tell you that Ocasio-Cortez is bad. We don't know why she's bad. She's just bad. And all of a sudden, we got to believe somebody like Trump is good. We don't know why he's good. There's no proof that he's good. He's not doing anything to show that he's good, but he's just good. He's fighting for us. He's making America great again. People want to believe this garbage for whatever reason that they want to. I hope they see now, because it's clear as day. You have this man. He left the United States of America. Not only did he leave his own states, he left the United States of America in order to get away from taking responsibility. And you have his opponent that lost stepping up, and you have Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who they think is evil and carnage, is actually helping more than their own senator. I mean, people can hopefully see what's in front of them, but you know, Roland, they're not playing this on Fox News. They're figuring out a way to make up some narrative or some story that somehow is blaming Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, like she created it. Somehow she is that powerful that she created it from the Green New Deal, like you said. I mean, and some people will actually believe this stuff. It's just amazing.
Of course, Michael. Bottom line is Fox News is derangement syndrome. They were the ones who were spreading the BS from the governor, Greg Abbott, blaming wind turbines and solar for the problem when that wasn't the problem. It was coal plants and fossil fuels. That was the problem. But they like lies.
Well, let's remember, Roland. Now, Fox News, that was one of the biggest propagators of the Stop the Steal rally and the election was stolen myth. Okay, until they got hit with a lawsuit from Dominion Voting Systems and then also one from Smartmatic. Okay, so you have to understand who you're dealing with. You're dealing with the Fox News crowd. With Ted Cruz, now I want to take people back. I posted this on the African History Network Facebook page yesterday, our fan page. Go back and look what House Speaker John Boehner said about Ted Cruz in 2016. He called Ted Cruz Lucifer in the flesh. And he said he called Ted Cruz. No, go.
I remember that.
I remember.
He called Ted Cruz Lucifer in the flesh, and he said he never worked with a more miserable SOB than Ted Cruz. Now, this was one Republican, old white man, talking about another Republican, younger white, well, Hispanic, want to be white, whatever he is. But I mean, so when I saw that about Ted Cruz, he got caught. He got caught. Then he booked a flight Thursday morning for 6 a.m. to fly back. Originally, he's supposed to come back this weekend. He got caught. Now he's trying to put the manure back into the horse, so to speak. Okay, they like that joke down in Texas. But anyway, so you have a lot of people, you have many Democrats calling for him to resign, and he should. Okay, but what he won't, but they should push and call for him to resign. But Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who many of them hate, and they can't really tell you why they hate her. And if you ask them what socialism is, they can't tell you what that is either, most of them. Okay. She's doing more to help them than Ted Cruz is. And then Ted Cruz wants to blame his children. He wanted to put the blame on his daughters and bring his daughters into it. Okay? So he's spineless, but it's the same guy who Donald Trump insulted Ted Cruz's wife, but then Ted Cruz it carries Donald Trump's water. So this is who you're dealing with. That's why he has to be voted out of office. He's up in 4 more years, I think it is. That's why he has to be voted out of office.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have, you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it. Please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible.
I want to play this video for y'all. I was absolutely cracking up at this video. I mean, it really was just hilarious. Now, this is not real, y'all. This is not a real video. This is a satirical video that was put together. So watch this. This woman she's a fake Ted Cruz spokeswoman. Watch this.
Yes, Senator Cruz is in Cancun right now. But here at his offices, we say big whoop. Senator Cruz deserves to relax, unwind, unplug, recharge, like you would a power outlet. Or his power grid's going to go out, and we can't be having that. That's too important. So he's got to take care of his light, which comes from the inside. And it's just like, why can't he have his eat, pray, love moment like everybody else can? It's just funny to me. It's funny that whenever he's here in America and he's doing his little jokes on Twitter, everybody says, go away, Ted, we hate you. But then when he goes away to Cancun, everybody says, well, where's Ted? Why isn't he doing his little jokes on Twitter? Now, sometimes you just don't know what you got till it's gone, and that should be a lesson for the Americans wondering where Senator Ted Cruz is at this morning.
All right. All right, Reese, you're the queen of shade. That was pretty damn funny.
Oh, that was great. And it's even funnier that some people don't realize like she's a parody account. And so they really take it seriously because she sounds exactly like how Republicans sound. I think it's very telling that for Ted Cruz, the way that he sees his constituents, and I don't mean the Texan voters, but I mean the 2024 primary voters for the presidential race, the Republicans, his corporate donors, is he absolutely has to be on the side of the insurrection for his political expediency, but he doesn't have to stay in Texas and actually deal with the crisis that's at hand. That says a lot about the Republican Party. And we all know that this kind of behavior won't necessarily be much of a deterrent for Republican voters because they don't give a damn anyway. They don't vote based on any kind of effectiveness or anything like that. They vote because they're white nationalists. But some people have been saying, well, what is he supposed to do? Look at Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. She has organized water distribution throughout Texas. That is what you do. She's a congresswoman, and these Senate offices, as well as congressional offices, as well as local offices, they have constituent services. They're the ones who are supposed to help triage things like this and come to the rescue. So this whole notion that there's nothing Cruz could do and he might as well go on vacation just shows a lack of civics understanding that people have, and a complete prevalence of propaganda and double standards in the Republican Party. But it's inexcusable, and I'm glad he was busted. And shame on him for throwing his whole family under the bus. I mean, he threw his wife under the bus when Donald Trump called her ugly. He didn't do shit about it. He still sat up there and kissed up to Donald Trump for the next 4 years. But he threw his daughters under the bus. He's a scumbag. He's a scumbag.
But no, it gets better. It gets a lot better because, Erica, what's real interesting here is that on Monday, Ted Cruz said they had power at their house. Then later, they didn't have power. Now, first of all, that happens. My family had power on Monday, lost power a little bit later. But the New York Times has gotten hold of some text messages. Go to my iPad. Oh, see, I just love some receipts. Cal Griffin posted this, Erica. New York Times has text messages Heidi Cruz sent to friends and Houston neighbors. Their house was freezing, and she proposed a Sunday return. Ted Cruz invited others to join them at the Ritz-Carlton in Cancun, $309 per night, where they had stayed, quote, many times. It's a little bad when your wife, when the text messages show up and you out there lying, and now you got text messages from Heidi.
The same one that he allowed his master to call ugly. This is Raphael Edward Cruz, aka Ted, ladies and gentlemen. This is who he is. But you know, this is really par for the course. What Republicans are essentially a death cult, and they care nothing about anything except for proximity to power and their own elections. That's what they're wrapped up in. So this kind of behavior will be yesterday's news in a few days, because that is how the Republicans move. It is on people to have long memories, for them to know that this is the same Ted Cruz that when people were trying to vote safely, he definitely had all of the smoke for that. This is the same Ted Cruz while his state was facing food insecurity crisis was silent. That is the same Raphael Edward Cruz. This is the same Raphael Edward Cruz that made his family comfortable going to Cancun, and he followed suit with a big ass Texas face mask on. And so now that he's been caught, and the lie has turned around and came back home. But just remember that these are things that people have to remember when, again, these folks are cropping back up for their re-election bid. They don't care about you. They care about ensuring that they are properly wed to power and in place at the call and command of their master, Donald John Trump. That's who these people are. And people have to make sure that they remember that.
Real quick, going to Dr. Greg Carr, more receipts. This was a tweet that Ted Cruz sent out, just in December. Go to my iPad, Anthony. Hypocrites, complete and utter hypocrites. And don't forget Mayor Adler, who took a private jet with 8 people to Cabo, and while in Cabo, all caps, recorded a video telling Austinites to stay home if you can. This is not the time to relax. Ain't nothing like them receipts, Ted. I'm sorry, Raphael.
Rafi Cruz. How does Rafi Cruz walk around with no spine, brother? But he has to do what Heidi said, because she's got to get down there to Cancun. I'm sure she has a regular masseuse there to help with those scars on her back from the last time the Trump train ran over her. He has to do that, because if he doesn't, he can't stay. in the house, hot, cold, or lukewarm, because she will spew him out of her mouth, because, you know, that's the price he had to pay when he gave his whole little manhood to Donald John Trump, as Erica's saying, and he put it in his back pocket and forgot he had it. He's probably been sitting on it the whole time. But, you know, I think the number here, and you know this, Roland, I mean, your family is in Houston, your parents are down there in Texas. You know, my mama's down there with my sister and them. They burning fireplaces, got to switch out. And my niece, you know, the man who there's a special place in hell for at this moment is Greg Abbott, you bastard. Because I'm going to tell you something right now. My mama's down there. And ain't no sense in threatening you with no physical harm. The numbers we must remember at this moment, even as we get our folks through this crisis, are 2022, you bastard. Because you know, the oil and gas lobby that has you running around in the propaganda saying this is about the Green New Deal, you shovel mouth bastard, while people are out here freezing to death. And I got friends, you know, down there. I'm looking on social media. I'm looking at, you know, my friend Ayafubara Nelly, who's tweeting pictures of folks breaking off firewood to keep warm out the trees as the trees crack. And let me tell you something. You got to go, punk. And then once that's done, you go 2 years later, and then Rafi, you know, you should have stayed in Texas. We'd have sent the bill. You know, they got waste disposal dumps down there. You should have stayed down there. But the important thing we must never forget is that piece you showed us at the beginning, that parody. The reason in this country we can't tell the difference, as Reese just said, in terms of what's real and what's not, is because it's all propaganda. God is right. They're gonna forget tomorrow about Rafi Cruz, and his base is not going to abandon him, because you're going to have to pry their white nationalism from them, literally, in the words of Charlton Heston with the NRA, the now defunct NRA, from their cold, dead hands. They don't give a damn.
All right, folks, back to that Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Just 3 days after Congress voted to acquit, actually after the U.S. Senate voted to acquit Donald Trump for inciting the January 6th insurrection at the U.S. Capitol, the NAACP has filed a lawsuit against him and his attorney, Rudy Giuliani, plus 2 white nationalist groups, the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers. The NAACP filed the suit on behalf of Democratic Representative Benny Thompson of Mississippi, who is expected to be joined by several other members of Congress within his party. The lawsuit claims Trump violated the Ku Klux Klan Act, which was enacted to protect former slaves and lawmakers in Congress from violence by white supremacists. Congressman Thompson, who is 72, has said that if the Senate would have convicted Trump, he would not have filed the lawsuit. Let's talk about this with our panel. Xavier Pope, host of Suit Up News, owner of the Pope Law Firm, Bree Newsom, artist and activist, Q. Bernard Driscoll, adjunct professor at the George Washington University. Glad to have all of you here. Bernard, I'll start with you. For people who don't quite understand, again, these laws, they go back to the Civil War era or the Reconstruction era. This is certainly an interesting legal strategy by the NAACP and Benny Thompson.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something that had to be done. I mean, the NAACP, they said they would not even bring it but for the fact that the Senate chose not to convict Donald Trump. And so I think it's just a method, Roland, of some sort of accountability must happen with this administration that directly attempted to disregard Black people and Black votes and were willing to attack the democracy and put the Republic in danger as a result.
What about that, Bernard, and this idea of, again, using this particular act that is very specific to, again, attacks against members of Congress?
Roland, I'm going to take a very contrarian and perhaps unpopular view here. I don't necessarily see the benefit of this. Yes, I believe in accountability. Yes, I believe this man, i.e. Donald Trump, needs to be held accountable for his actions. But I am not sure, nor am I confident, nor, quite frankly, do I believe that this will hold up in a court of law, right? The premise behind it. So I think it's not a waste of time, but I think perhaps the NAACP could use its resources towards more sustainable actions to really improve the community. I also think it calls into the question of relevance for the NAACP. Again, if we're going to hold Trump accountable for his actions, I understand that we need to take all means accountable, but is this really the best way possible to do that? I'm not convinced that it is.
Well, again, Bree, what you're dealing with, first of all, I think we can separate this whole idea that NAACP can't do 10 things at one time. Makes no sense. I mean, they file lawsuits every single day. They filed lawsuits in Georgia that dealt with the whole issue of voter suppression. They filed lawsuits partnering with other legal groups to challenge voting laws, but they also still are involved in actions that also benefit the community. So the reality is you can do those two things at one time. But the reality is, but one second, but the reality is, Bree, we heard Mitch McConnell say on the floor that Donald Trump, his involvement, and should be taken to task in civil court or actually in criminal court as well for what he did. This is a Republican Senate minority leader who opened the door saying he should be prosecuted in those forums. This is the NAACP saying, okay, we'll start.
Yes, and I think that in my view, the strategy here is you have to go after the money. You have to attack the networks. And I think that is part of the logic behind it. This is something that has been employed in the past. We see this frequently, right? Where we'll have people who they want to go after Trump, but they're not really trying to take over or take on white supremacy and challenge it. And that's essentially what we saw play out with impeachment. So McConnell gets up and he basically acknowledges, everything that was put forward in the case, but they're not going to hold Trump responsible for it. And so from that perspective, I think this can be very effective, like even regardless of how it plays out ultimately in the judgment, you have the potential to bankrupt some of these white supremacist organizations and to expose the flow of money that's going to them as well. Because, see, in order for them to mount a defense, they're going to have to try to reach out to those other revenue streams who I'm sure are not going to want to come forward on the public record in terms of supporting them. And this has been effective in past decades in terms of really cracking down on the Ku Klux Klan.
This is the thing. This is from Senate.gov. Go to my iPad, please. This is what it says. It says, in its first effort to counteract such use of violence and intimidation, Congress passed the Enforcement Act of May 1870, which prohibited groups of people from banding together, quote, or to go in disguise upon the public highways or upon the premises of another with the intention of violating citizens' constitutional rights. Even this legislation did not diminish harassment of black voters in some areas. It then said that while these committees were investigating Southern attempts to impede Reconstruction, the Senate passed two more force acts, also known as the Ku Klux Klan Acts, designed to enforce the 14th Amendment and the Civil Rights Act of 1866. The second force act, which became law in February 1871, placed administration of national elections under the control of the federal government and empowered federal judges and United States Marshals to supervise local polling places. The third Force Act, dated April 1871, empower the president to use the armed forces to combat those who conspire to deny equal protection of the laws and to suspend habeas corpus if necessary to enforce the act. And so this was about, again, protecting the rights of citizens, but also members of Congress. Xavier, here you had a group of people who were storming the U.S. Capitol who wanted to actually change the results of the election.
If we don't have use of laws that are put in place to protect Black votes that don't actually serve to protect Black votes, why aren't they on the books? That's the reason why the 14th Amendment Section 3 is involved in terms of being able to make sure someone like Donald Trump never holds office again. That's what the Ku Klux Klan Act is put in place to be able to protect Black votes and Black people. None of us as Black people on this panel or on your show should be advocating for a process that doesn't use the laws that are on the books to protect Black people. We should be shouting at the rooftops for every avenue, and I'm so glad the NAACP is taking this move to be able to protect Black people. It doesn't matter, and Brees made a great point there in terms of saying that this would weaken donors. I mean, I think that this process puts public record potentially with some sort of any discovery that comes at hand or any information that becomes available. And once the media starts reporting this, this really makes Donald Trump, it really makes the Republican Party look bad. And so it may not necessarily have the legal effect that that NAACP might want, but it may have a political effect and a social impact that the NAACP wants. And that's why this is important.
Quadricos, here's the deal. We literally saw we saw no witnesses come forward in the Senate's impeachment trial. Donald Trump, Rudy Giuliani, you don't have Congressman Kevin McCarthy or any of these people who are testifying. Speaker Nancy Pelosi today announced it's going to be a 911 style commission to look into what took place on that particular day. So if Senator Mitch McConnell stands up and these 43 Republicans stand up and say, oh, it was unconstitutional to actually have this trial, even though they voted, and they voted that it was indeed constitutional, so that argument really made no sense, well, should there not be some recourse? Should there not be some effort to hold folks accountable for what took place on that day? The feds are arresting people, but what about those who incited? Why is it that, should there not be recourse to hold them accountable for the lies they continue to spread and for what they basically incited?
Absolutely, there should be recourse.
So what is it? What's the recourse?
What you have even in the state of Georgia, the Fulton County District Attorney, Wellis, is suing Donald Trump, right? That's, I think, a very viable option versus than what the NAACP is trying to do here.
But Quadricos, the Georgia case is only specific to Georgia. The phone call that Donald Trump made to Georgia. They're also investigating Senator Lindsey Graham. What took place in January 6th, that was the nation. It wasn't just Georgia.
Correct, Roland. What I am saying, and perhaps it may come across that I'm hating on the NAACP.
No. I'm just trying to understand it.
But I don't think that this effort is going to be viable, quite frankly. Are there other ways to hold Donald Trump and those insurrectionists accountable? Absolutely.
So what are they? What are they?
What are they?
Though, what are the other ways? No, seriously. What are the other ways? From your vantage point, what are the other ways?
The other ways? Arrest them, right? Arrest them.
How?
Bring them. How? What do you mean how?
Hold on. When you say arrest, When you say arrest, one second. When you say arrest them, you mean arrest Trump and Giuliani?
No, I mean arrest those who were at the insurrectionists, the rioters. Arrest those individuals.
Okay, that's being done. What else?
So what else are you all trying to suggest?
Right. What I'm trying to suggest, and Bree, you can speak to this. What I'm trying to suggest is, I'm saying arrest those who were involved in the insurrection and go after those who played a role inciting the insurrection. Bree?
Yeah, like if I may, I continue to feel that the magnitude of what happened on January 6th is way underplayed, like in general. I mean,
Right.
this is arguably like the most significant event since the United States Civil War. It was an attempt to overthrow the government. And so I think on one hand, it's a question of what does an organization like NAACP do in response? And I think what they're doing is the appropriate thing. I think arresting the folks who were there is key. But we've also seen that the failure that's already happening in terms of arresting people. They're going after the lowest level folks. We already know that there has been involvement and coordination with police and military. I mean, the scope of this is enormous. And I think that we have to meet it. I kind of agree. It's like every single possible avenue that can be used in going after it is necessary and should be employed. I was quite frankly disappointed in the way that impeachment played out. I think that they should have called witnesses. I think they should have made it extremely clear the seriousness of this, that this is not anything to rush through. But I am glad that they're talking about putting together an independent commission, because that's what is required. We need to know the exact networks that were involved in this. There were a lot of people. This was a massive conspiracy that was going on, and it's only just by chance and by circumstance that more people weren't killed that day. That they came very close to assassinating Congress people, to possibly taking siege of the Capitol. And I know that Republicans and conservatives and white supremacist sympathizers are going to constantly try to downplay this, and I think we can't allow them to do that. Last thing I would say about the importance of what the NAACP is doing is their action really refocuses the fact that this was about attacking the Black vote. And, there's a lot of trying to kind of steer away and downplay that. This was specifically about trying to overthrow the Black voters. The places that they were trying to target were specifically places where Black voting made the difference. And I think that the NAACP case really brings that to the forefront.
I think that is absolutely correct. I do believe, Xavier, that this, to hear Ron Johnson, well, I mean, this really wasn't an insurrection. I didn't see weapons. Dude, there were folks with baseball bats. There were folks with zip ties. There were individuals who were using flagpoles, who beat Capitol Hill police officers. This effort by Republicans to severely underplay what took place on January 6th. I mean, this was for all the whining and complaining about the protests in Portland or Kenosha, Wisconsin, and other places. These individuals literally discarded barricades around the U.S. Capitol. They were beating. One guy's now being pursued for gouging out the eye of a Capitol Hill police officer, and they act like things got a little out of hand at the Capitol Hill picnic on January 6th.
There were bombs planted in D.C. Can I say that again? There were bombs by American citizens who are supposed to be the most patriotic of people, and yet they are planting bombs in our cities. 5 people are dead. It is amazing, a month after this insurrection, that now there's an attempt to downplay how violent it was and the threat that was to this democracy. You saw a video of Officer Gene Goodman directing the life of Mitt Romney, who was just short steps from being attacked by the individual that stormed the Capitol. There is no way that we can turn around and let the narrative be posed that an insurrection that led to death should be overlooked. And I do believe that the best way that an organization that represents Black people should go along and to address the direct issue, which is people were willing to burn down the democracy for white supremacy. We cannot sugarcoat this. People that are opinion hosts that are riling people up on other networks, we should hold them accountable for the things they have done as well. This is a step by step. Now, the Republicans, they would have took every single avenue. They would have called every witness. They would have called the mamas of the witness, the cousins of the witness. They would have done everything possible to be able. We saw what happened with Benghazi. They would have gone every length to do this if this were Black people storming the Capitol to protect the presidency of Barack Obama. So let us be clear. We cannot sugarcoat. We can't put kid gloves on this. Every step, every avenue must be pursued. They pursued a multiple-pronged state attack legally that failed to be able to attack democracy. And when that didn't work, they stormed the Capitol. So they must be held accountable in every possible way. There's avenues available to this democracy.
I just think, Quadrico, that what has happened so far is not enough.
Roland, you know,
and it's just not enough. It's just, I mean, what Bree said, what took place, I mean, that was vicious. That was real. We had Congresswoman Maxine Waters on this show. She said, there is no doubt in my mind that if I had not left the U.S. Capitol early and they had gotten to me, I would be dead. These folks, I mean, they were out for blood. This was, to hear Capitol Hill police officers say this was a coordinated attack. Donald Trump and his administration actually got with them to move one of the events to January 6th. This was specifically to target the U.S. Congress. I believe in some courtroom there has to be a reckoning. And look, if Giuliani, if Trump, if any of these folks are found guilty, fine. But there needs to be a real trial, not that crap we saw in the U.S. Senate.
What really fuels my... I think my...
Hold on 1 second. Corjicos, go ahead.
What really fuels my frustration here is, quite frankly, I feel that this is not our fight. One of the reasons that white people, good liberal-minded white people, don't have the wherewithal to understand what happened January 6th is because precisely their identity is wrapped up into maintaining power, right? And they're trying to wrestle and understand this. Let the NAACP take this effort. I'm just not convinced that it will actually do anything to warrant the injustice that continues to take place and that took place on January 6th. But it underscores the reality that Black folk continuously try to call America to be its better self. This is for white people to deal with. I don't think it's our fight.
But Bree, it is our fight in that what they were trying to overthrow was the result of Black votes.
Exactly. Like this is an attack on the concept of multiracial democracy, in my view. So, and two, I think we should recognize white people aren't going to do this. Like white people, I mean, the whole reason that we are here is because white people are not going to ultimately lead the charge in overturning white supremacy. I mean, that has just never been the reality of this nation ever. And that's part of the reason why an organization like the NAACP exists. So again, you know, it's not that any one of these things on its own is going to address the issue. I think it's like, what is the role of an organization like NAACP? And I think they are playing in this moment the role that they have played historically for 100 years. I mean, the NAACP and the Klan are, you know, they go back to the same century. They date to about the same century and the same time period for this reason, because the Ku Klux Klan, you know, formed in the aftermath of the Civil War. It's always been about attacking free Black people. And the NAACP has always been about leading the legal fight against those attacks on Black freedom. So, you know, I think that that is the role for them to play. Yes, there's a role for white people to play. Yes, white American society should stand up and do this. But the reality is that they're not going to. And I mean, that's part of what we just saw play out with the impeachment. We knew that they weren't going to hold Trump accountable, even though it is all obvious. Why? Because Trump is the embodiment of modern white supremacy. He is like the emblem. He is the mascot. And that's why, you know, like it has been said time and time again, of course we know. First of all, if it had been Black people even planning a rally on January 6th, they would have had National Guard out there. Like, there's no question we wouldn't have even made it to the steps of the Capitol. The fact that people made it all the way inside is because they had the assistance of the white power structure. The reason that we are having this conversation of trying to figure out how to hold people accountable is because of white supremacy, sympathizers with white supremacy within the white power structure. So, you know, I think NAACP is doing their role.
And here's the deal. The NAACP, Xavier, is not the only group that could actually file a lawsuit. I think what you're seeing here is an attempt to say, okay, you guys did not want to move on this. let's take it to a forum. Let's actually see. A judge will decide if they are standing to actually move forward. But to Bree's point earlier, this whole, let's just sort of move along. I mean, when you listen to Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez talk about vividly what that day was like, when you see the reports being feed away, when you saw the House impeachment managers, I mean, to me, this requires a real, true accountability that needs to take place. And the bottom line is this here: if it's the NAACP, fine with me. If it's some other group, fine with me. I'm saying hold their asses accountable.
I mean, there's a fight over whether a black man can sell cigarettes on the street, or whether a man's $20 was actually a real $20 bill, and he died as a result of it. But every attempt is being made to sugarcoat white supremacy in America. We saw with our own two eyes people climbing up the fences. We saw with our own two eyes people are in our congressional chambers. We saw through the impeachment trial the different steps that we're taking. We heard the different calls of Donald Trump. The evidence is laid bare before our eyes. And we as black people, we have saved this democracy over and over again. Saved it with our votes. We have James in New York simply to save it with that state there. We saw with how the borders were organized. We have to keep saving this democracy. It is what it is. We are the head of how this country moves in protecting its citizens. We signed up for it, unfortunately, in terms of what we are doing to push back on our lives and our votes, but it is what it is.
It is what it is. And so, again, we reached out to Derek Johnson with the NAACP and Congressman Benny Thompson to get them on the show. They were unavailable, so we'll certainly try to do that in the... All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. A cop was killed. 2 committed suicide. Another one had his eye gouged out. Another one lost 3 fingers. Numerous cops have been dealing with concussions and other injuries. But the law and order crowd didn't give a damn. They basically said, those white folks were there for us. Yeah, we're good. We'll pass. We'll move along.
This is so egregious, Roland, when you look at the loss of life, the loss of limb. To lose your eyesight behind BS is just egregious. But what's even more egregious is that those folks were in that room. They were in that chamber. They know what happened. They experienced what happened. And apparently they have such fealty to that man that they basically, it's like, what you're going to look at, the truth or your lying eyes. And, they denied having to get under desks. The person I really want to hear from, Roland, is Mike Pence. I would really love to be a fly on Mike Pence's wall when he's talking to his wife, because Trump basically called those people out on Mike Pence, his vice president, who had toadied around him for 4 years. And he didn't even give him the courtesy. He tried to make him break the law. And he did not give him the courtesy of, even when the riot was in full force, say, don't hurt Pence. They're shouting, hang Pence, hang Pence. And he didn't even have the spine to say anything. These, as you say, is 43. Let's not even call them spineless. People who have no integrity, no decency, no commitment to the Constitution. They just don't care. And just for the record, as they talked, they kept making false equivalencies with Black Lives Matter. But when has any protest with Black Lives Matter killed an officer of the law, blinded an officer of the law, maimed an officer of the law? So, they just need to go away.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.